Welcome back everyone, it is now time to go through and do our next requested class review, and this time it is going to be Archfiend. If you don't have Archfiend, you can pick it up from Speaking to Oblivion at Join Tuckermuscumo or Miltonus' Secret if you prefer. Overall though, I have given this one a rank A, farming at an A+, support at a B, solo at a B, and PvP at a D. However, if you do have endgame forge enhancements, these will be greatly increased and pushing that S tier. Archfiend is a mid to late game farming class and is recommended for free players. Now let's talk about a couple little bits with this class. It is a 2-target long range farming class. There are some very strong elements of support as well, including a 7 friendly target skill, as well as debuffs to your enemy. The Blood Rage rank 10 passive inflicts a heavy damage over time. For the start of this video though, the first couple instances are going to be base class, so no forge, full luck to see how it will perform if you are more in that mid game bracket and just get a better idea of it. Archfiend is not a bad option as a solo class, however you do have to bear in mind, and this comes into it even more with farming in a minute, its survivability isn't necessarily the best. Now that is purely because the only way you can heal is off of your skill 4, and it's a heal over time and it lasts a couple seconds. If you're just using Archfiend for general use, such as going through the weekly releases, that could be something that works because those bosses typically won't be as high tier as ones with monster HP. Ultimately though, Archfiend will keep you alive as long as they don't do heavy DPS, but the battle will just take a while. Now let's talk farming, because this is where this class really does excel. So if you're solo farming with the base class, this is what you can expect to see. It is a 2-target farming class that could potentially be slower than some 3-target classes. However, generally Archfiend is considered on par. The niches this class feels best is group farming and also solo farming low HP mobs. Group farming it's really good at because it does have those support elements with it, increasing your team's crit damage and also debuffing your enemies so they take more damage. Very briefly in the background with the base class, I'm just showing you what it looks like being buffed by Revenant. This is going to be more like a situation when you're actually going along in your group and you're just doing some casual farming with other players that may also be at the map. So Archfiend, really good option. Let's move on though to Forge, and we're starting off with high DPS monsters. Now although you've only got 2 attacking you and we are using Dauntless, Vainglory and Anima at this point, you are generally going to have survivability issues with Archfiend. You may potentially be able to run certain setups to negate that, although with the other class options that are out there, particularly when you get to the late game, then you're probably just better running one of those instead. That's not to say not to use Archfiend, it's just saying you may want to be in a room with other players when you're doing your farming with it against high DPS mobs. However, if you go over to the farming of lower DPS mobs with Forge, it is excellent. It will shred through your enemies, and to be honest, it runs incredibly similar to how it does for me with Necronomancer. That is saying something because I absolutely love Necronomancer, but you could just spam 2 and 3. The cooldowns are so low on Archfiend, it's great, and then you can hit 5 for a little nuke. If you're using Dauntless, you're not even going to have to worry about your heals really, but you can still use 4 to get the buffs off of it if you want. Moving over to bosses. Now this is an interesting one. You can use Dauntless, or with the changes that have come into Ravenous, it is also really quite powerful to be using that, and I actually get higher DPS numbers of using Ravenous with the below setup. You may want to change those around. That's just what I was using in this video, so you have got a reference. Dauntless solo, you can freely spam, make your way through the boss, and you'll generally be around the 11,000 damage a second by the end of it. However, if you start going off with Ravenous, then that builds up significantly more, and I was getting to about 14,000 damage a second, but I did just have to keep half an eye on using my skill 4 to get some heals in there. It did seem really good, powerful, and it made good time on the Champion of Chaos, although yet again higher DPS mobs will probably be a bit of a struggle. I very briefly went along to PvP, but when a class has survivability issues, a very short heal and the damage output isn't massive, it's best to just avoid that. Anyway everyone, as always, I'm just going to ping up on screen all the different skills that go with this class, so if you'd like to know what they all do, have a little pause and a read. They're going from 1 to 5, and then we'll also put that rank 10 passive up at the end as well. Anyway, Archfiend, it is a good class. It is one of the good late game options. You can pick it up in the mid game if you're happy going along farming for your Nulgath Regents. It used to be a member class. They made it free, so you might as well go along, pick it up if you haven't got it already, but the farm could take you a little while. However, it will happily carry you through the majority of the game, but health issues can be a problem, which is the main thing I'd flag up with Archfiend. As always though, thank you very much for watching. Please do leave a like and of course subscribe, and I'll see you all again incredibly soon.